فَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ. So it should not amaze you. It should not impress you. What should not impress you? أَمْوَالُهُمْ, their wealth. وَلَا أَوْلَادُهُمْ, and nor their children. The address is again to who? The Prophet ﷺ. And through him, we are being told, indirectly, that when you see the wealth and children of these people, don't be impressed by it. Don't be amazed by it. That when you see their wealth, it is so much. They have an abundance. They have a kathra of wealth. And when you look at their children, they have many children. And not just children, but they are successful children. In the worldly sense. Very successful. Don't be impressed by it. Don't be amazed by it. Like for example, if you find out about someone who is very successful in the worldly sense. A businessman, for example. Or a doctor, for example. Very successful. A lot of money, big house, nice cars. Everything that a person could dream of, that person has. And on top of that, his children also are going to med school. What do people generally think about such people? They're so successful. Wow. Look at them. They have so much money. They're so successful. And look at their children. Even they are successful. Or one is in business school. One is doing his PhD or something. Another is a CEO of another company. Whatever. People get very impressed by these things. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us? That worldly success does not determine eternal success. Therefore, when you see someone successful in the worldly sense, don't be impressed by that. No matter how much wealth he has, no matter how much children he has, no matter how successful they are. And on the other hand, what is our reaction generally? If a person is suffering from some financial problems, we feel very pity for them. Similarly, if a person does not have any children, again we feel pity for them. Or if their children are disabled, again we feel pity for them. Why? Each and every single person is being tested by Allah. Why do we feel pity for someone? Yes, okay, they're going through a difficult situation. We feel bad for them. However, don't think that they are unsuccessful or they are being deprived or poor them. Don't think like that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us over here that if someone is successful in the worldly sense, that does not mean they will be successful eternally. فَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُهُمْ. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ. Allah only wants. Meaning, Allah has given them so much wealth, and He has given them children who are successful. Allah only wants that لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ بِهَا, that He may punish them through it. Allah only intends to punish the hypocrites through their wealth and through their children. Where? فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, in the life of this world. How is it possible that a person is given wealth and children in this dunya and he's actually being punished through them? How can wealth and children be a punishment for a person? Aren't they a means of being successful and happy in this life? Think about it. Everybody strives to make money. Why? Because when you have money, you're successful, you'll be happy. All your problems will go away. Similarly, then you get married, and then you have children, because then your life is complete. And then you have money, you're happy. But what does Allah say over here? Allah is punishing them through the wealth and children that He has given them. How? Think about it. How? How can wealth and children be a means of punishing someone? For example, a person gets so obsessed with his wealth and children that he neglects other important things, and at the same time he doesn't find any barakah in his wealth and children. Okay, the example of Walid ibn Mughira, that he was extremely wealthy and he had 10 sons, and he was so famous, he was so impressive. However, look at the way that he is described in the Quran. 9 bad, evil characteristics of his are mentioned. But again, the question is that how are wealth and children, that when they are given to a person, how do they become a means of punishment for him? Aren't they supposed to be a blessing? That Walid was being tested. However, he did not pass the test. Eventually he became extremely arrogant, and he used to insult people, spread rumors, etc., etc. And at the end, his wealth and children, okay, they left him. However, how do they become a means of punishment for a person? That a person becomes so immersed in them that he is taken away from Allah. He forgets about Allah, and eventually he loses it. But again, how are they a punishment? Wealth and children should create ease for you, but Allah says they are punishment for them. Yes, that when a person acquires wealth, he has to put in so much effort in making that money. Not just in making that money, but looking after that money, taking care of that money, making it grow, spreading it. There are people who go through serious illnesses, despite the fact that their banks are full. They have several houses, but they're extremely ill, extremely unhappy. They take so much stress. Their lives are full of problems. Their children become extremely disobedient. And sometimes they fall into corruption, because of which they ruin their reputation, they ruin their image. They're not trustworthy at all. So, what does it mean by Allah wishes to punish them through this wealth and children that He has given? By means of the difficulties and anxieties that they go through in the process of acquiring the wealth and preserving the wealth. In looking after it and looking after their children even sometimes. They have to go through so much difficulty. For example, a person has a huge house, but at the same time he has to spend so much time looking after it. For example, a woman, she has a huge house, and she has people who are working for her to come and clean the house. But at the same time, she has to maintain it herself. She has to go up and down, in and out, running outside the house, inside the house, and at the end of the day, she goes to sleep with her back hurting, with her feet swollen. And sometimes the same house becomes a source of great misery for people. And especially when a person becomes so obsessive with them that this picture frame does not suit here, maybe I should move it elsewhere, the paint of the wall should be like this, and this decoration piece, it should be in the center of the table, not on the side of the table. Why is there dust over here? What about that mark on the floor? All their worries, all their concerns are about what? This dunya, the wealth that they have acquired. And that makes them miserable. It makes them unhappy. It doesn't bring any happiness to them. So we see that the more a person has, the more problems he faces in life. Think about it, like for example, for your house, you have to look after little things. But at the same time, there are people who perhaps don't have a house, they don't have to care about the snow, they don't have to care about the grass, they don't have to care about anything. They're so free. And you are confined in looking after all of this wealth that you have. So don't get impressed if somebody has a lot of money, because that is not a measure of success. Somebody once said, more money, more problems. That sometimes people who are very wealthy, but what happens? Their life is in danger. They're abducted. And those people who abduct them, they demand huge ransom prices. So a lot of their money goes into just freeing them, or their children get abducted. They have to spend in so much money to constantly free themselves. And the wealth that they have, they cannot even enjoy it. It becomes a risk for them because people are turning against them. People are saying negative things about them. They're accusing them, or they're coming and harming them, harming their wealth. It happened so many times. The sister just mentioned about a person who was in the psychiatric ward at the hospital. He was very successful in his life, and he was gaining $4,000 after he retired every month. But he was constantly worried that what if something happens to my house? And if something happens to it, how am I going to take care of it? How am I going to repair it, etc.? So all that anxiety, it caused him to become depressed. And it took him out of his house, where? Into the mental hospital. So just imagine, a person who has a lot of wealth, but at the same time that wealth becomes a means of many problems for him. Similarly, we also see sometimes people, they have a lot of wealth, they spend that wealth on their children, but they don't spend quality time with their children, they don't train them properly. They give them everything of this dunya, and later on those children, they become extremely disobedient, extremely rebellious, and they become a means of great torture for the parents. Great torture for them. That they're extremely disobedient, extremely rebellious. Just recently I found out about a person who owned a huge business, and he has only one child. Only one child. And that child is so rebellious and so disobedient that every other day they find out that, the child took the car, the very expensive car, or they hit the car, or something or the other, or they've been purchasing things over the phone, online, and huge bills are coming up. Only one child, but a source of so much problem for the parents. So much problem. So, wealth, material success is not everything. It's not everything. So we should not get impressed by that. What does Allah say? That for some people, especially when it comes to the munafiqun and the disbelievers, Allah is punishing them through this wealth and through the children that they have been given. So don't think that they're very successful. Sometimes people are extremely wealthy, they have everything, but either they're ill or their children are ill, and they're willing to give up all their wealth just to get that health back, just to get that healthy child back, to get rid of that illness. They will do anything. They will spend all of their money. So, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ, Allah only wants لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ بِهَا, that He punishes them through it. Through their wealth and through their children. Where? فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, in the life of this world. And we see that sometimes people, they amass so much money, but at the end, they're struck by disaster which destroys all of their money, all of their wealth. Or they leave it for their children, and what do their children do? They waste that wealth. وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُهُمْ, and their souls depart, وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, while they are disbelievers. And their souls depart while they're disbelievers. تَزْهَقَ is from the root letters زَي هَا قَاف. زَي هَا قَاف. زَهَقَ. زَهَقَ is to pass away. It is to come out with difficulty and sadness. It is to pass away, to leave how? With difficulty. خروج بالصعوبة, with difficulty as well as sadness. And especially when this word is used for nafs, what does it mean? That when they're dying, when they're departing from this dunya, when they're leaving this life behind, what state do they leave in? While they're extremely sad, while they're full of regrets, while they are very distressful, an extremely painful death. وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, and at the same time, they're also disbelievers. That because they don't believe in Allah, at the time of death, they don't have any comfort. They don't have any sense of relief. They live in tension, they live in stress, and they die with that stress as well. And وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُهُمْ وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, تَزْهَقَ also shows that at the time of death, they're sad because they're leaving behind all of their wealth. And all their life that they have enjoyed their money, it has not brought them any comfort, any enjoyment. That at the time of death even, they're extremely distressful, extremely regretful, very sad, in a lot of pain. Their money cannot do anything for them. This is the end result of the hypocrites. What? That Allah punishes them in this dunya through their wealth and children, and when they die with sadness, and at the same time they die as disbelievers. This is the end result of the hypocrites. The reality is that wealth and children, what are they? They are a test. They are a fitna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ fitna. Your wealth and your children, what are they? They are a test. It doesn't mean that wealth and children are inherently bad. They're inherently evil. That's not what the meaning is. All of this discussion that we just did, it does not mean that a person should not keep any wealth with him. And if Allah has given him wealth, he should think that, oh, this is evil, I should get rid of it. No, that's not what the meaning is. The meaning is that a person should not be so attached to it that he thinks that only if he has it, then he will be successful. And if he does not have it, he will not be successful. Never should a person think like that. Rather, he should be content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, and he should use what Allah has given him in the way of Allah. in the way of Allah. He should use that. Then he is passing the test. If he does not do that, then he is failing the test. وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُهُمْ وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ. That while they leave this dunya even, they're extremely sad. And we see that when a person dies, his wealth and children, they accompany him up to the point of what? The grave. But at that moment they must go back, and he must go ahead. Wealth and children depart a person, they leave a person, they're not constantly with a person. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayat 55 and 56, we learn, أَيَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّمَا نُمِدُّهُمْ بِهِ مِن مَالٍ وَبَنِينَ نُسَارِعُ لَهُمْ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ بَلْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. Do they think that in wealth and children, with which we enlarge them, we have given them so much of, do they think that we are hastening unto them with good things? That we are giving them the good that they deserve in the dunya? Do they think that their wealth and children are a form of reward for them? No. They don't perceive, they don't realize that this is not reward for them, but rather this is punishment. So what's the main lesson of this ayah? That wealth and children do not determine the success of a person. They don't. In fact, they could be a means of punishment for a person. They could be a means of great loss for a person. What is it that determines success? A person's iman, a person's ita'ah, his obedience to Allah. That is what determines his success. وَيَحْلِفُونَ بِاللَّهِ. And they swear by Allah. يَحْلِفُونَ from the root letters ha, lam, fa. Half. What does half mean? To swear. But what kind of an oath is it? Which a person makes why? To end a dispute, to end enmity, and to re-establish friendship with someone. The hypocrites, many times the word yahlifuna is used for them. Why? Because all of the time this is what they'd be doing. That they did something wrong, they have said something incorrect, and they would come to the Prophet ﷺ swearing oaths. Why? To make clear to him that we're ending whatever we did in the past and now we'll be good. Yahlifuna, they swear, billahi, by Allah. Innahum laminkum, that indeed they are of you, they are among you. They swear by Allah that they are one of you, that they are true believers. But what does Allah say? وَمَا هُم مِّنْكُمْ. The reality is that they are not at all with you. Allah tells us the reality. They are not of you. Then why do they say that they are believers? Why do they say that they are of you? وَلَكِنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ يَفْرَقُونَ. But they are a people who are fearful. Because they're afraid of you, that's why when they come to you, they say they are believers. In reality, they're not believers. يَفْرَقُونَ is from the root letters فَرَقَ. Faraq. Which means to be terrified, to be extremely fearful. There is another word that comes from the same root. Farq. What does that mean? To separate, to differentiate. What a person is extremely fearful of, does he remain with it? No. He separates himself from it. Isn't it? So it is such fear, faraq, it is such fear that takes a person away, that makes him stay away from what he fears. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ يَفْرَقُونَ. They are extremely fearful people, and because of this fear, they avoid you, they want to avoid you, they want to stay away from you, but to satisfy you, to please you, they come to you and they say, and they swear that they are believers. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ يَفْرَقُونَ. So we see in this ayah that the hypocrites, they were extremely deceitful. Extremely deceitful. And since they had no interest in deen, they were afraid of their deception being exposed. They were afraid that their deception, their lies would be exposed. So they would come to the Prophet ﷺ and swear oaths that we are with you. Who needs to swear? The one who is not being believed in. The one who wants to make sure that the other person accepts what he's saying. Which is why they will say, Wallahi, Wallahi, on every little thing. Sometimes it's a habit. But other times, people say it, why? So that other people believe what they're saying. Because generally, people don't believe them. Generally, people don't accept what they say. So the hypocrites, they would come to the Prophet ﷺ and swear. Why? So that their deception would not be exposed. Their kufr, their deceit would not be exposed. So we see that they had accepted Islam only out of fear of people. Not because of fear of Allah. Only out of fear of people. Just so that they're accepted by the people. So we see that when it comes to doing something for the sake of Allah, when it comes to iman, when it comes to obedience, there are two types of people. One group is of those who do whatever they are doing out of fear of Allah. They say, they do, they work, they serve. Why? Out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't fear people. Who do they fear? Allah. Which is why no matter what the people say to them, no matter how people oppose them, no matter how people discourage them, they don't care about people. What are they concerned about? Allah. Who are they concerned about? Allah and His pleasure. Secondly, there are those people who work, who do something out of the fear of people. That if I don't do this, what will people say? If I don't pray, what are people going to say? If I say this, what are people going to say about me? If I don't say this, what are people going to say about me? That she wears hijab and still she says this? Or she goes and studies Quran and still she's not praying? Or still she's not reciting the Quran? Still she's not sitting after the salah and doing dhikr? What is this? Doing something good out of fear of people. Out of fear of people. And such deeds are also not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These deeds also do not carry any weight. You know, some people, they display good behavior and manners. Why? Because of other people. When they're around certain people, they will talk very nicely. They will wear certain clothes. They will wear certain garments on their garments. Right? They will speak in a different way. But when they are with other people, then they're completely different. Then what does it show? That a person is fearful of Allah or a person is fearful of some other people? He is fearful of people. He's not fearful of Allah. So when a person does actions based on fear of people, they're not accepted. They don't carry any weight. So what does it show to us? That we have to become honest with who? Allah. Yes, we also have to be honest with people. But first of all, we have to become honest with Allah. This is something extremely important, and we all need to reflect on ourselves. Is there anything that I'm doing only because of fear of people? That maybe I pray salah only when I'm with people and I don't pray salah when I'm not with those people? That I recite Quran only when I'm with them, and when I'm not with them, I don't recite Quran? I only recite my adhkar only when I'm with those people. When I'm not with them, I don't care about it. When I'm with those people, I don't listen to music. I don't even talk about music. But otherwise, I listen to it. So the munafiq, what does he do? He shows righteousness. He displays righteousness out of fear of people. But this display, this show-off, it does not carry any weight. And how afraid are they of the believers? How afraid are they of the Prophet ﷺ? That لَوْ يَجِدُونَ, if only they could find مَلْجَأً, a refuge, أَوْ مَغَارَاتٍ, or some caves, أَوْ مُدَّخَلًا, or a place to enter, لَوَلَّوْا إِلَيْهِ, they would turn to it, وَهُمْ يَجْمَحُونَ, while they run heedlessly. This is how afraid they are of believers. This is how much they want to avoid them. That if they see a true believer, if they see the Prophet ﷺ, they want to run away from there. They don't want to be caught doing something that they would disapprove of. They don't want to be seen doing something that they would disapprove of. Why? Because if they're seen like that, if they're caught like that, then what's going to happen? All of that display of righteousness that they have shown, it's going to be washed away. This is how afraid they are of the believers. That if they could find a malja is from the root letters lam, jim, hamza, laj'un. What does laj'un mean? To take shelter and refuge in a place. And malja is a place of refuge. A place where a person takes refuge. Where a person stays in order to be safe from the enemy. Malja is what? A place where a person stays in order to be saved from who? From the enemy. So for example, a person goes into a fort and he stays there. A person goes into his house and he locks the door. A person goes into the washroom, a room, locks the door. And until that person that he's hiding from, he leaves, until then he's not coming out. Do you understand? Like for example, if you go somewhere and somebody's not dressed appropriately or they're not doing something that's appropriate, and they find out you are there, they're going to run away. They're going to go hide in the room, close the door, and when you're gone, then they're going to come out. Malja. لَوْ يَجِدُونَ مَلْجَأً. If only they could find a malja where they could hide. أَوْ مَغَارَاتٍ. Or some caves. Magharat is a plural of maghara. From the root letters ghain wa ra. Ghawr. What does ghawr mean? Depth. Ghawr. Depth. To sink to the ground. And from the same root is the word ghar. What does ghar mean? What kind of a cave is it? Small, narrow, tight. And magharat, caves. Maghar. This is also ism zarf. A place where a person is in depths. And because of that, he's hidden. So for example, they could find a closet, or behind the door, or behind a booth. Something in which they could go and hide. A small opening in something, and they could just go and hide there. Magharatin. أو مدخلا, or any place of entrance. Muddakhal is from the root letters dal khalam. Dakhala. What does dakhala mean? To enter. Muddakhal is a place of entrance. A place where a person can enter and he can also stay there. A place where a person can enter and also stay there. So for example, a tunnel, a basement, a cellar. If only they could find a muddakhal, what would they do? لَوَلَّوْا إِلَيْهِ. They would turn towards it. Meaning they would turn away from you and run towards it. وَهُمْ يَجْمَحُونَ. While they rush in haste, while they bolt away, trying to save themselves so that you don't catch sight of them. You don't get to see them. يَجْمَحُونَ is from the root letters Jim, Mim, Ha. Jamh. What does jamh mean? Jamh is to bolt, to rush. It's basically when a horse breaks away the ropes that he's tied with and runs away. So just imagine a person is riding a horse. He's got the reins in his hand. And what does the horse do? He somehow manages to release himself from those reins. And he just bolts away. He runs away. He doesn't care where the person is. If he's still on his back or he's gone, he's landed on the floor. Doesn't care. He just bolts away, runs away. And when a horse runs like this, it's uncontrollable by the rider. It's uncontrollable. The rider cannot control it. And the horse doesn't realize as to where it's going. Is it running into a tree so that the person who is sitting on top of him could perhaps hit into that tree? Doesn't care. If he's going into water, if he's heading into something that has fire, doesn't care. It's running uncontrollably without following any order, in haste, rushing. So وَهُمْ يَجْمَحُونَ. They bolt. They flee, they run away in haste without any consideration. They just want to be away from you. This is how afraid they are of facing the true believers. This is how afraid they are. They want to be so away from them, they don't want to be seen. It's like, for example, generally when people are online, that is where their true nature comes out. When people are online, and they put up their pictures or they write things, that shows their true nature. But sometimes what do people do? They provide limited access to certain people. Limited access to certain people. So that perhaps those people, they cannot see their pictures, they cannot see their comments, or they cannot see their friends. Why? Because they're afraid that if so-and-so person sees that I have put this picture, if they see that I wrote this, or I am a fan of this, or I am following this, what will they think of me? What will they think of me? So who are they afraid of? Allah or that person? That person. And when a person performs good deeds with this feeling, with fear of people, then his good deeds are not acceptable. They're not acceptable at all.